Welcome everybody, and thank you all for taking time out of your day today to join us for our live event. My name's Mark Hudson, CEO of Squirrel 365, and today I'm joined by my colleague, Donald MacCormick, our Chief Strategy Officer. At the moment, all attendees are in listen-only mode. We're streaming on LinkedIn Live and also here on the Zoom webinar. And we're also recording this live event, and this will be available to you all later today. We'll have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. So please, I encourage you to use the Q&A and chat panels during the session, whether you're in the Zoom webinar or whether you're watching live on LinkedIn. Okay, so let's get started. Launched in 1985, Microsoft Excel has grown its user base over the last 35 years to a whopping 750 million users and has been proclaimed by the Microsoft CEO to be their most important consumer product ever. Spreadsheets have become a standard requirement within business and are now even taught to our children at a very early age. In fact, spreadsheet formulas have become a second language to many of us. So what if you could leverage your Excel skills to enhance your presentations, build and share interactive web content, and deliver powerful business applications? Well, enter Squirrel 365. By harnessing the power of spreadsheet formulas and logic, Squirrel allows business users to easily deliver engaging presentations, interactive web content, and powerful business applications. In fact, we think it will change the way you think about spreadsheets forever. So let's see why. Donald, over to you.
Thank you, Mark, and welcome everyone to this webinar. And most of this, in fact, 99% of this will be in the product of seeing Squirrel 365 and what it can do, but just one slide to start with before we get in. And that's really to emphasize what Mark was saying, is this is how you can take your spreadsheets, your ordinary spreadsheets, because, I mean, yes, spreadsheets were invented many years ago, but we've been doing essentially the same thing with them for all those years. But now with Squirrel 365, we can take ordinary spreadsheets, however useful they are and incredibly useful, and turn them into extraordinary content. So web content that you can deliver to the through a web page with a web link embedded in a website, or indeed embedded inside PowerPoint. So what do I mean when I talk about extraordinary content? Well, something like this, which is one we'll focus on through the webinar today, which is a calculator which gives me an indication of how my SaaS revenue is going to grow over time based on various factors. For example, if I want to bring up my monthly churn, then we'll see that sort of in the second year of my model, the recurring revenue drops off. Whereas if I take my referral conversion rate getting better and better, you can see I go into exponential growth. So this sort of dynamic, interactive content, but it doesn't have to be a model like this. It could be as simple as a set of data with a table, a pie chart and a bar about data from the planets and the dwarf planets of the solar system. Or perhaps it's embedding some interactive Wikipedia pages, again, about solar system objects inside a web page. Or perhaps one which I sort of owe the idea behind to Timo Elliott at SAP, which is the ability to see what's going to happen to people as you do more and more slides in a presentation. And as I say, we're going to try and stop this PowerPoint overload by just keeping you in the product rather than going into PowerPoint. Or indeed, if you want to, doing sort of standard sort of dashboarding, being able to flick between different sets of data, flick between different visualizations. So as I say, what we're going to focus on mainly is this one here. And in order, as I say, to persuade you that you can do this with just your spreadsheet knowledge, we're going to build a version of this and see how it all comes together in Squirrel from the underlying spreadsheet. So the spreadsheet that I'm going to be using is this one here. It's very standard. There's nothing extraordinary about this spreadsheet. It's 24 months of projections. Basically, you take how many ad hits you've got, what proportion of those become trials, what customers you have, how many customers are added and lost, and the recurring revenue, all based on these factors here. So the monthly subscription, so what your advertising budget is, what your cost per click is. So all of these just drive through to here. So you'll see that each of these cells here has got a formula in it which just grows over time, and we pulled out some higher level KPIs, year-on-year growth, which is just summing the 2 years and dividing one by taking one from the other and dividing. All incredibly standard Excel spreadsheet capability. You could do this compatible with both Excel and Google Sheets. You could be doing this in Google Sheets or Excel, and it's based on this that we're going to build a model. So what we do is we come into Squirrel. This is a Squirrel Designer, which is a tool which allows you to take that spreadsheet. So I'm going to import that spreadsheet, that SaaS revenue model spreadsheet you just saw, into Squirrel here. And then we're going to let Squirrel do its magic based on the formulas in here. The first thing I'm going to do, which was the centerpiece of the revenue model you saw before, is a column chart. So I'm going to take this column chart, and the thing you can do is all point and clicks. You put your components on the canvas, and then you change them to look the way that you want to do. But there's nothing complicated about it. For example, I come on here and I want a title. I just type recurring revenue, and my title goes there. Maybe I want to put it in the middle. I'm going to auto-size these bars. I'm going to take out the subtitle. But now what I want to do is get data into this. So I'm going to take away my general tab and go into my data tab, and data in here I'm going to bind to an individual series, and this series is going to be my recurring revenue, as we saw in the final version, and the values are going to come from the spreadsheet. So it's these values over here, these 24 months worth of data, and immediately I've got my revenue thing there. I'm going to make this smaller because there's more to fit into this later on. But then I need my labels. So you can see at the moment it's just default labels here. So I can pull in my labels, and I'm going to go across here, January 1 year to December the next year, and hey presto, starting to get my thing. Oh, they're a bit crowded. So what I can do is I can go and style those on the x-axis by saying I want to tile them at 45 degrees. So many options to be able to change this the way I look, but all done just by clicking options, point and click, to be able to get to where I want to do. The final thing I'm going to do here is maybe change the styling on here, change the line color to maybe make it a little sort of a little lighter, a little greener. There we go. So now I've got my chart. Now I can preview this, so I can turn this into web content by clicking on preview. And now I've got my chart based on the data in the spreadsheet. Well, to a large extent, or to almost any extent, that's not that interesting. Charts on spreadsheets have been around probably as long as the history of Excel that Mark was talking about. But the difference here is this chart is tied into this spreadsheet. So what I can do, if I come down here, let's say I want to change that monthly churn to 20%, and it updates that. And remember what's happening here. That number affects all these numbers in here, and then it goes to that row at the bottom to give me my recurring revenue. And so what's happening is as I change that number, that whole spreadsheet is being recalculated. So that starts to give you a flavor of why this is interesting, why this is different. Is because not only have I got a chart on here, but I'm carrying into the web world all those calculations inside Excel. Now, obviously, that's not that much use to someone using this. If I send this to them, as I say, with a web link, and we'll see how we do that later, they can't do anything with it. So how do I get people to be able to do anything with that? Well, there are other controls here that don't just take data out of the spreadsheet, but puts data into it. So I'm going to put a slider in here, and that slider, I'm going to say I want to connect that up to the model. So I'm going to connect this up to my Excel model, go into factors, and say that's going to be churn. It's going to be churn like that, and it's going to be a percentage because that's what it is. And because the percentage, it goes from 1 to 100. I don't know these end values. I know that all too well. Maybe I can put a label on this so my user knows what's going on, and I can either type that label in. So I could say churn like that, so that says churn, and again I maybe put that to the left there, or I can bind this to the spreadsheet. Almost anything can be bound to the spreadsheet, so the spreadsheet really is the heart of what's going on here. So I've got monthly churn there, and I'm just actually, before I preview this, I'll copy and paste those to have a second one, and I'm going to take those and I'm going to bind this to something different. I'm going to bind this, as we saw in the full version, to the referral conversion rate, and I'm going to take this down here, and it's going to be rebound into the referral conversion rate as well. So now I'm starting to get the heart of my interactive content. So if I come and preview this, what we see is if we change this, now we've got the capability for the end user to be able to change things as we go. Again, there I change the monthly churn, it goes down. I get my exponential growth if I take my referral conversion rate up, and I'm just going to make that a little bigger because annoying me that it's cut off there. And if that's all you want to do, you could take this now, and from the preview screen, I can then say I'm going to publish this up to the cloud, and I'm going to call this SaaS revenue. and one click and I'm publishing. So it's taking that content, generating it into web capability, and then I've now published it out to the cloud. So I can make that live, and then I can view it in a browser. So a minute ago, this didn't exist. It was just a boring old spreadsheet. Now I've got something, I could send this link to someone and they can see the same thing there. So I've got an interactive piece of web content based on the logic. And remember what this is doing in the background. So the user can't see the spreadsheet here, but what's happening in the background is that every time I change this, all that's being recomputed, changed into the revenue, pushed into the chart, so I can see what happens. As I say, is that's the exponential when I get my referral conversion rate going up. But we don't want to stop there. We saw a lot more capability in the one that in the finished one that we saw. So how do we add that extra capability? Well, the first thing I might want to do is I might want some sort of KPI. Now we've got these KPIs in here, which give me year-on-year growth and revenue growth and annual retention rate. So what I want to do is I'm going to add a piece of text. And this text is going to go up here, and this is going to be my big KPI label. And so I'm going to make the font a bit bigger. Again, it's all easy, just point and click and type. The text color, I'm going to make that white, but so I can see it, I'm going to make the background black. So it's a sort of you can start to see where we're going with this. So this is now quite a sort of a bold thing that draws your attention. And what I want to do is something that says year-over-year growth is this here. Now, these are in 2 cells. And the beauty of this is if I want to do something custom inside Squirrel, I have to do it in the spreadsheet. So you already know how to do it. I know how to bring this and this together in Excel. I just use a formula. And rather than doing it here in amongst my logic, what I'm going to do is add a new sheet. And I'm going to say that this is going to be, go back to the sheet here. I'm going to say this is KPI text. And I'm just going to add a new formula as if I was in a spreadsheet. It operates exactly as it was. I could have done this in Excel. It operates exactly as if it was Excel. So I'm going to say equals that, and then I'm going to say and put a space, put another and, just to combine these bits of text together. And actually, I seem to have lost my revenue growth. I don't know why. So in fact, okay, so we'll do something different. I'll take, rather than taking that, I'm going to take my that here so you can see. So I've got something to base it on. Now that number is too big, so what I'm going to do is I need to format it. Again, I just fall back onto my Excel knowledge. So I'm going to format this as a percentage like that, and there we go. And so this is actually, let me put that to sorry, deleting that was a bit of a mistake. So I can come back here. So it's annual retention. So there we go, annual retention rate. So that's the KPI text because I managed to lose my formula in there. So what I want to do is I want this to be in here. So I just come up here and I say I want that to be in there. And then I've got annual retention rate. So I've now got annual retention rate. If I preview it in here, then what we see is that will go up and down as I go there. Monthly churn, that drops off to there. But I can also color this. It's a KPI, so I want to be able to color it. So I say, I'm going to say, what's the KPI color? And that's going to be either good or bad. And it's good. The color is going to be red or green. Like that. Well, actually, the wrong way around. Green or red, and the basis for this I'm going to take at about 8. I'm going to take it at 80% there. So what I can say here is, again, like an Excel formula. I say if the KPI retention rate is less than my my cutoff point, then I want it to be red. Otherwise, I want it to be green. So it's green at the moment because it's above that. And all I have to do now is to bind the color of this text into this cell here. So now you see it's green. Actually, I'm going to make that light green because it's a better contrast. Like that. There we go, light green. So it's 82. It's above 82, so it's okay there. So if I come in here and increase my churn, so my retention rate goes down, you'll see that as it goes below, I've now got it's up and down, it's green, it's red. So I just from scratch, just using Excel capabilities, I've got a chart, I've got it affected by the changing of the variables, churn and conversion rate. I've got a KPI tile up here, which shows me, and I've got some color coding on it. The last thing I want to do is actually, some people prefer to see things as data. So I can take my data table in here, go back to my main model. I'm going to pull out this here along with its formatting from the spreadsheet. So there you see I've got my my data table, just all the numbers in the spreadsheet. I'm going to make these centered like that. Let me move them up a little there. But what I want to do is, obviously that's a bit of a mess. I don't want to see them both at the same time. So another extraordinary capability of Squirrel is the ability to turn things off, again, based on what's in the spreadsheet. So I can say chart and table. And I'm going to add in here, I'm going to add a radio button. And that radio button is going to give the choice of, guess what, chart or table. And then what it's going to do is I'm going to say, I'm going to push back into the spreadsheet what the user selects, which label the user selects, and I'm going to put it in this cell there. And just to make sure we're keeping our eyes on it, I'm going to make that yellow so we know that's the cell there that we, am I not? Oh, it's not changing. Apologies. Let me just get that once more. No, it's not doing. I don't know why. So we're concentrating that chart I2. So what we're going to do is we have this concept in Squirrel of dynamic visibility. So what I can say is that that I2 square cell there, when that is equal to, oh, nice. I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong one, all over the place here. Sorry, I'll clear that. If I'm on the table, go to dynamic visibility. I say I want to take that, which is going to change depending on what's selected in the radio button. When that equals to table, which is going to be inserted from this label, then I want to see the table. If I come into the chart, then I can do the same thing for the chart. Just get down to dynamic visibility. I come in here, I go there, I say I want to do that, and the value is going to be, actually I don't want to type in the value, and go to table. So now if I run this, actually the last thing I need to do is I need to give this a default value so that I can, it comes in based on 1, and I'm going to based on the chart. So if I preview this, I come in, it's a chart. Oh, I've messed that up, apologies. Yes, I have to, that's to say chart like that. Now, there we go. So I've got the chart when I start, or I can switch to the table, or I can switch to the chart, or switch back to the table. So I've got complete control over what's being presented, the colors, the numbers in it. So here, this table here, you can see when I update that, all the numbers are changing based on the model, all based on the spreadsheet model. And if we go a little further, and it really is just adding more components and more bindings to the spreadsheet. There's nothing extra I've done. For this completed model, it's just adding a few more components, a rectangle to give the nice background there. Everything else is as you saw there. And I've now got that version which you saw before, where I can do all the things. I can change all of these, the churn, the net promoter score, representing all the variables that I had in my underlying spreadsheet, nicely packaged. People don't have to worry about the Excel formulas and all that sort of stuff. They've got the capability packaged up in a piece of web content. And then, as we did before, I can just save that to the cloud. I'm going to save that. In fact, I'm going to overwrite the one that I did before. So I'm going to overwrite SaaS revenue. So now I have a project here that is that finished version that we can now start sharing. And so if I come in here, I've got various share options. And the first thing I'm going to do is share it with you guys. So I can copy that web link, and then I'm going to come down to my chat window. And if I paste that link in the chat window, then provided if you're watching this as an on-demand webinar, that link may not still be live, but that link now, you should be able to click on that and you should be able to see that. Now remember what happened here, that didn't exist 2 minutes ago. I've created that link, shared it to the cloud, and made it available to anyone I want. I can put passwords on that. I can make it expire. I can turn it down. I could move it to draft so it's no longer live. So I've got control over it, but I've also got this capability to deliver that out amazingly quickly and easily. But it doesn't stop there. I can take that, and you saw in the share box, there are other places I can do. So I can share this to PowerPoint. So I can take this capability and embed it directly into PowerPoint. So if I come back to my slides, I've got a slide here that I want to put this in here. So I've done some analysis with the model. I know I've said, yeah, growth looks good. It's sensitive to churn and NPS. The ad budget is currently, but I want to put that in here so people can see it at the same time. So if I come out of here, what I can do is I can say insert add-ins, my add-ins, the Squirrel 365. You can get that add-in from the Microsoft Store, and then I just type that number that ID that I got in there, and now what you're seeing is the same model but delivered directly inside PowerPoint. And so I can do that there, and it's not just visuals. I can take this and I can say, actually, I want monthly churn, And so I want to see what happens there. So I'm doing this inside PowerPoint. If I go back to my, if I go back to my my presentation mode here, so I'm now presenting. It doesn't look like it's any web content, it just looks like it's part of the, but I bet you've never seen a presentation do something like this before. So I'm live inside the presentation based on the model, and all based on Excel, the model that I had in Excel. So really sort of amazing stuff to be able to take that, create it. You've seen me create something like this in front of your eyes from a spreadsheet, embed it in, publish it to the cloud, and now here it is active inside PowerPoint. But I can go one step further than that. We talked about being able to put this into websites. And so if I just get my browser back up here, what I can do is I can come into, this is WordPress. So what I need to do is come back to Squirrel here. I can get an embed code. So I can take this code here and copy it out, and then come back to my here, and I'm going to add a new post. So this is a new post inside my WordPress system. My embedded squirrel. I just come in here and I take that code, and that's the code that the embed code that I pasted there. And if I now preview this with one line of text, I can come in, and I've now got an embedded squirrel model inside my web page. So I can now have that sitting on a web page. So I can embed it. I can send a link out for people to share. I can send it out. I can put it in a PowerPoint so I can present, or I can embed it in a website, whether that's using, it's my own homemade website. I might be using Notepad to create it, or some other capability. I could put it into WordPress or Wix or anything like that. So you can share this content wherever you want, so people can get to it. So you really can take, so this is, as I say, they take these ordinary spreadsheets, turn them into extraordinary content, and then distribute them all over the place. Now, Mark talked earlier about creating dynamic presentations, interactive web content, and applications. Right at the top end of this, but I have to stress, not using anything different to what you've seen already today, you can create some remarkable sort of web-based applications, and none more remarkable than what we did a webinar about 3 or 4 weeks ago with one of our customers, Ziv from Salesforce. And what we have here, if I just bring it up, is a really cutting. You really should go and watch the webinar, because not only is it an amazing piece of Squirrel capability, it's an amazing application that Salesforce used to drive their sales. This is Ziv here because he was presenting at the time. But what I've done is edited it down to show you what's possible. Now, everything inside this browser here is a Squirrel model, a Squirrel project, all based on a spreadsheet in exactly the way that you saw today. There is literally nothing else other than the sort of things you saw me to do: dragging components, connecting to the spreadsheet, writing back into the spreadsheet, making things visible and invisible depending on values in the spreadsheet. And Ziv has created this, which he now runs out to about 450 of his salespeople, to be able to, for them to, what happens is that they come in, and if I start at the beginning here, they come in and they can turn different cost drivers on and off in the model so that they get those. They could come in, then change the values of the cost drivers that are left that they want to change for a particular customer, or they can do it by just selecting from the pre-populated drop downs. This is actually running against an Amazon Web Service to calculate the cost that this will take in the infrastructure on the server. You can change the value drivers with the sliders, or he actually has this wired up again using a Squirrel to save all these sort of scenarios back to a database at the back end so people can get to them later. And then he's got this this final screen, which is the ROI screen, with all these lovely visuals of the benefits that come out of this, which actually the sales guys use to present back to their customers in terms of how they're going to benefit from implementing the service. The service center capability from Salesforce. It really is. I really would recommend, if you're interested in this sort of end of Squirrel capability, to watch the webinar with Ziv, because it's just amazing what he's done. But remember, everything here, these menus, the down here, all the visualizations are driven using Squirrel from an underlying spreadsheet. So logic in the spreadsheet, exactly as you saw before, drives all of these, and the numbers are driven by the spreadsheet in terms of the calculation. So if we come back here, so what have we seen? We've seen the ability to turn ordinary spreadsheets into really quite extraordinary. And I defy anyone not to say that what Ziv has done with this is not extraordinary. It is truly remarkable what he's done without writing a line of code, other than sort of being able to type formulas and functions into Excel and connect them up to Squirrel. You can embed it in PowerPoint, share it with a link, embed it as you saw with the WordPress, and you can build almost anything. Once you get the hang of how the spreadsheet drives the visuals, you can build anything from calculators to widgets to apps. Now, in terms of widgets, I'm not sure we've seen many of those today, so I've got a plug-in here. We'll see more of those next week. If you come to the same slot next week, we're going to focus on one aspect of this, which is dynamic presentations. How do you take Squirrel and really enliven your presentations? Yes, you can do the sort of thing with the calculator that I saw there, being able to say, how would revenue change based on all these assumptions? But there are other things you can do, and I'll just leave you with two things here. These are both Squirrel projects. See, they're both powered by Squirrel. One is a dynamic clock. So that's a clock in real time running in PowerPoint. So I can't imagine how else you would do that other than with Squirrel. I can even change this here. Say I want it to be more modern, and I don't like the second hand, so I can change that there. Again, all done in Squirrel, using exactly the same techniques as you saw before. And the one in here is one of my favorite. It is actually my very favorite optical illusion, which you won't believe, and you will think I have made it up or somehow cheated. But it turns out that square there is the same color as that square there. Those two are the same shade of gray, and you'll be screaming that can't be possible because they are so different. But watch this. If I use the slider, and again it's a Squirrel slider, this is all Squirrel, and slide this down to here, watch what happens. If I slide this down, as it goes down, and I promise you, I am not changing the color of that square as it goes. It's the same color all the way down. It's just your brain is playing sort of games with you in terms of, because it's in the shadow or out of the shadow, you see different things. But anyway, we'll look at that next week, and how you create both of these along with some other things you can do to engage your audience in PowerPoint, as well as the more serious sort of calculator business style things as well. So with that, I will pass back to Mark to answer the inevitable slew of questions that will have come in as we have been presenting.
Thank you, Donald. I think everyone's in awe of your optical illusion that you've just done. Thank you very much. So yes, we have had some questions come in from the attendees on both LinkedIn Live. Thank you guys for joining us there, and also here on the Zoom webinar. Firstly, Rachel has asked, how many Excel functions do you support in Squirrel?
The Excel functions, I think it's, I don't know the exact, it's over 400 of them. And it's almost all the ones that you would routinely use. I mean, some of the weirder sort of engineering ones and things we don't do. I mean, we close the gap all the time. We're adding more. We've just done a release and added more functions, but it's about 400 at the moment. And it covers way over 95% of the ones that people routinely use day in, day out.
Cool. Thank you very much. Jim joining us from LinkedIn Live. Hi Jim. What PowerPoint versions do you support?
So in terms of PowerPoint versions, there are two ways of looking at that. They're sort of like, how old are the versions? And it's really the Microsoft, the add-ins that you saw there are Microsoft's new way of doing add-ins. I think they support back to 2013. But more importantly, you saw that today in the desktop version. It also works in the web version and the iOS version. So Microsoft done a great job of the new add-in technology. It works right across their platforms thanks to the standards of the web, and we hook on the back of that. So pretty much any version of PowerPoint that is available today, it will work in seamlessly and without being changed.
Fantastic, thank you. Gareth has asked my type of question, to be honest with you. Gareth joins us from the Zoom webinar. Where do I get this from? You mentioned the Microsoft Store.
So there are two pieces you need. The first piece is Squirrel itself to create the content. And so if you come to squirrel365.io and click on any of there's try buttons for a trial to get the Squirrel designer to be able to create these in the first place. And then if you want to embed one of these in a PowerPoint presentation, then you just go to the place I showed you there, insert an add-in, and there's a link there or an item on that menu to go to the Microsoft Store, type in Squirrel, and then just install the add-in. The add-in for PowerPoint is free to use. so anyone can download. So once you've created your content in Squirrel, you can push it out and anyone can view it in PowerPoint using the PowerPoint viewer.
Fantastic. And just to confirm, Gareth, that link you need is squirrel365.io, and the button is Get Started, which is in the top right-hand corner of the homepage for you. Thank you for that, Donald. Simon has asked, do they have to be stored in the cloud? Do Squirrel projects have to be stored in the cloud?
So no, they don't have to be stored in the cloud. So there are the builder plan that you can buy Squirrel on allows you to export that web content so that you could host it on your website without having anything to do with hosting stuff on our clouds. You don't have to put it in our cloud. You can store it locally and put it on your website and run it that way. The one restriction on that is that you cannot, if you do that, you cannot use the PowerPoint capability. And the reason for that is that the way that Microsoft have delivered this add-in capability, it's all web-based. So it has to be on the web and in our cloud to work in PowerPoint. But other than that, yes, you can store it on-premise on your own web server without having to store the files on our cloud.
Okay, sorry, just reading this. Do my viewers need any special software?
No. So it's all web technology. So you need a browser. Well, I mean, the one piece of potentially quote unquote special software is they're viewing it in PowerPoint, although that's usually you viewing it in PowerPoint and presenting. But you need the PowerPoint viewer from Squirrel again, which is free to download if you want to do it in PowerPoint. But other than that, it really is just a browser, Chrome, Edge, you name it. You can view it. It's just standard web technology.
And finally, we've got a question which I will take from David. I've upgraded to version 1.6, but I don't have the option to publish to the cloud. How do I set that up? David, that will be because you're on the desktop license of Squirrel, and we need to upgrade you to the cloud license that comes with the additional capabilities. So I will reach out to you and also send you a link to the customer preview event that we ran a couple of weeks ago, which explains the whole upgrade process in more detail and get that over to you. I hope that will explain that. Right, we've just run over by a couple of minutes. I want to thank you all for taking your time out of your day today to join myself and Donald. Donald, that was fantastic as ever. I wish you all a very good rest of the day if you're over in North America, and if you're in Europe, a good evening. Thanks, everyone.